Quistbilly Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Quistbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to episode 200 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. The shackles are off and we've moved away from 3 podders to 4 today to celebrate a worthy win in HD1. After Kevin Nagle insisted that one does simply walk after a more draw, Jon Worthington galvanised the Terriers as Town won 4-0 for the first time since August 2021. Joining me today to rejoice in a Yorkshire derby win with Cozzy in Germany, hopefully picking up Stefan Bumgart on his way back to Yorkshire this week. We've got the Silk Master, Ian Kilroy-Silk, Talk TV's Jonny Gillespie, and 2 men who have played in the same team as Jonathan Worthington. There's myself, Matt Shaw, and ex-Town stopper and local legend, Phil Senior. How are we doing, guys?
Evening.
Very good, thank you.
Fantastic. So this
is that football
episode,
team, Matt, or is that something else, a different sport? Just asking.
No, well, he played for the he played for Wycliffe Mount Sixth Form once. So when he was in year 11, did Worthy, and so yeah, small claim there. With Lee Bromby at centre back as well, so not a bad team. Yeah. So this episode sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing, as always. Use our code of AHTTC10 and you will get 10% off all of your online orders at www.magicrockbrewing.com. And always head down there for your pre- and post-match drinks and snacks as well. Right, boys, let's get into it. A 4-0 win. The first time that we've won 4-0 for 2.5 years. Amazing. Pre-match. Let's talk about pre-match. Let's do it in chronological order. Let's not break my my ADHD. So pre-match, Worthy and Pearson called up for the press conference. I think a lot of people took it as Darren Moore getting the old foot put into him. I'm not sure Worthington really did. Mike Pearson certainly did with some of his comments. They were quite brutal, weren't they? But there was sort of comments which I think not so much playing to the gantry, but Jonathan Worthington I thought was really good. I thought that was the first press conference I've enjoyed from a Town manager for quite a while. He just talked about getting the shackles off and trying to get on the front foot and moving forward. But whereas Matty Pearson was a little bit more, he kind of just sort of said he didn't really agree with the previous ethos and he wants to try and win games, not draw them and stuff like that. So quite interesting, and maybe we're reading between the lines and reading incorrectly, Johnny. But it certainly seemed that a weight had been lifted on one or two. I mean, it's different for everybody, isn't it? But it certainly seemed from Matt Pearson that maybe there's a weight lifted from the squad, so to speak.
I don't think we're reading too much into it. I think it was quite literal with Matt Pearson's interview. I love that. It takes me right back to it's like gone off topic in the first 10 seconds, sorry, because he's not here. But to me, straight back to the Burnley interview after the cup game, that he just says it how it is. But yeah, and I think that's what it is, wasn't it? Really, I think you do get a new manager bounce, and they don't exist just in coincidence, do they? Generally, it's because the players probably get together and spot a few things that they weren't necessarily too happy with, or would do things a little bit different. And I guess when you've got that interim manager, sometimes you can do that. They might look and say, okay, they could not necessarily been involved day to day as much. They'll have a good idea of what they're doing and what might not have worked and stuff. But sometimes a few senior players, no doubt, have got the rest together and say, look, this is what isn't been working. This is what we think we need to try and do. Pearson alluded to that in his interview somewhat. And it worked to a certain extent. I think in the first half, it wasn't the whole amount of differences, but certainly the way the Town looked to try and play and the fact, straight away scored and kept going, which was completely different to what we'd ever done previously under Moore. It's a 4-0 win. it's fine margins, isn't it, with football games? But certainly there's evidence there to show that something obviously was different and something worked a lot better on Saturday.
Killer, you've coached before, haven't you? And I'm sure people disliked your methods and your Ludditisms and what have you. You've got there, but I mean, I know I did hear a little rumor that Darren Moore used to like doing the old Mike Bassett, where you play without the football kind of thing, and you kind of imagine you passing the ball. And I can imagine things like that. It's a Roy Hodgson special. I can imagine things like that don't particularly go down very well with some players.
Well, I can't believe he did it. If it actually did happen that way, honestly, I think you can't lose a group of players quicker than doing that exercise. It's awful. It's embarrassing having to do it, especially if everyone's jumping on the back at you shouting. But it's just the one thing I didn't understand from the Pearson and Worthington interview. They talked about simplifying. I don't know if it was in the pre-match conferences, but simplifying as in defence. And now Phil might be better able to explain that. But with Darren Moore's football, I don't understand where the complexities in our defensive setup was. I didn't actually understand what they were referring to, because it looks pretty straightforward. We're back five. Doesn't matter what we do. As long as we turn over the ball, you need to get back into shape, right? That's kind of how I understood it. But then listening to the shackles come off, not just in attack, but in defence, I don't understand it. But Pearson was very, very clear. But then no player likes playing in the system that Darren Moore's played in. I think that kind of setup you can do for one or two games, and you can, if you lose 4-0 to Leeds and we lost against Cardiff, you kind of have those moments, right, where you're thinking, right, we've got to stop conceding goals like we are. And then it's okay for just a couple of games to bring that in, so you bring your confidence back up, your defence gets a little bit more resolute, and then you have to open up again. But that never happened. And for 23 games, all his tenure, it was back to the wall from the off, wasn't it? And I've never enjoyed playing in that. Okay, I've not played to the level that you yourself have, Matt, by the sound of it, and Phil, but it's a good enough level, and nobody likes to play in that for a long term. It's depressing. It's defeatist. Footballers want to win games, and we were going out week after week after week to draw games, and that's why we've drawn more than anybody else in the English Football League. Players don't enjoy that, and straight away on Saturday you could just see. I thought the first 20 minutes, we'll get on to in a second, were very nervous, but as soon as people settled and the system changed it through a forced injury, through an injury forcing the change, we looked much better, and the players looked more confident straight away.
We played a back four against Leeds, which was unreal, really, because that's the one game you would expect a back five, against them to double up on the wingers. But Phil, let's talk about Worthy himself. Killer's given me way too much credit there. The school football team's not exactly the highest of high standards, I'll be honest. But Phil, tell us what Jon Worthington, you played with him for years, didn't you? Tell us what qualities he has, throughout, or what he's picked up throughout his playing career. Because were you there with Halifax at him as well? Because he turned up at Halifax, didn't he?
Yeah, he followed me to Halifax.
So yeah, come get rid of him. So you started and finished with him almost, didn't you? But what qualities has he picked up from the start to the end there, which make him a really good fit for this caretaker role?
Well, I mean, just going back to what you guys were saying, I did see the interview and I saw what Matty said, which always sounds great coming out of Matty's mouth, doesn't it? Because it's literally just no nonsense.
So blunt.
Kind of. But that's obviously how the players were feeling. I thought Worthy was brilliant. Really simple, really to the point. He obviously understood what he wanted to do, wanted to get out of the game on Saturday. And that's just Worthy, really. He's very no nonsense. He's a clever lad. So he understands the game very well. But I think the biggest thing that you're going to find is the passion for the club that he'll bring. I tried watching a little bit of the videos, inside training, things like that, and it was really interesting to see the kind of contact with the players, and how well he's probably thought of within the club, because I can imagine in terms of his coaching ability, players will listen. It's strange. Obviously, we're really good friends, but he just has this kind of skill, this leadership skill that's there. It's not forced or anything. It's just the way he is. And before the game started on Saturday, I could 100% imagine these players would play for him. And I know he's only, interim manager, etc., and he's looking after the place until we get another gaffer. But it's a nice fit, and I was just really pleased for him Saturday. I thought, it's a good result. Obviously, the performance is, irrelevant kind of thing. I think it's just the fact that hometown lad, He doesn't want to let anyone down, and he definitely didn't, did he?
No, definitely not. Gummersall boy, wasn't he worthy?
Yeah.
So, before the game kicked off, he's had 2 curveballs thrown at him straight away, hasn't he? The morning of the match, he's got a sickness bug, Jack Redoni and David Kasumu, and to be honest, we've used injuries and sickness and these things as an excuse in the last year, really, under Fotheringham and Darren Moore, and I do it on the podcast as well because we'll talk about the game as well now and the system that he's picked a 4-2-3-1. It's a very attacking version of it. He's got Reece Healy. Kind of, we discussed this, I think, on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, how we could potentially play Reece Healy behind Radulovic in the 10, but as a shadow striker that moves beyond him as well, that starts deep but moves beyond him, like Andy Payton used to do back in the 90s. Andy Payton, if you remember him, at Barnsley, yeah. So he started there, which was interesting, and then 18 minutes or whatever it was into the game, his groin pops and off he goes injured. Your 1 million plus strikers off injured already. Your other striker, I think he got poked in the eye, Radulovic, in the first half. He took one in the face in the first half, and then I don't know if he got poked in the eye or he got elbowed. But I don't know if he's got an eye issue or a concussion or something. I haven't quite checked on that yet. But he had to go off injured. And you got your 2 strikers there that you've spent all season talking about getting strikers. We need to get strikers in. You get the 2 strikers in and you get your biggest game of the season and they both go off injured. And at this point, it's so easy to just kind of, I was already making excuses in my head going, we've got the sickness bug, we've got both strikers off injured. It's not fair, But Worthy and the team didn't dwell on that. I think we maybe would have done in the past 12 months, and they got on with it. And I thought that was really, really good. They never let it phase them. They just went, right, Josh Koroma's going up front and changed it. It worked really well. Ben Wiles came on for Healy, and Ben Wiles had potentially his best game for Town. He played well against Ipswich really early on, but and that's what I really liked with this approach. From when they say taking the shackles off, not only did I sort of think that they're going to try and attack more, it's they didn't dwell on any potential excuses. They just pushed past it and pushed forward, and I thought that was brilliant, really, from Worthy. And he made at no point did he try and make any excuses before, and I just loved it. I thought it was great. And the first half maybe wasn't the best half of football. It was tense, wasn't it? You're going to get that in a relegation battle, a derby. Sheffield Wednesday, actually, I read a few of their comments because I'm in a few groups, championship groups, and some of their fans were saying, we're so bad, we're terrible, etc. I didn't think Sheffield Wednesday were too bad until we scored the first goal. I thought they tried to play some really nice patterns under Danny Roll's management. I thought some of it was quite good. Didn't work all the time, but they kind of got in down the left once or twice. Matty Pearson at right back was a necessity, maybe, just to solidify, just to help Balker maybe on balls into the box. But never at any point I think maybe they had the one chance, didn't they, which Nicol saved, but I never really felt overly threatened. And I always felt when we got into the box, there were bodies in there as well to try and do things. Radulovic sort of maybe should have laid one off when he's had a shot. But the first half, I thought I could see what they were trying to do. I could see it was more Warnock than Moore killer. It just seemed like Town were trying, whereas they weren't creating abundant chances. There at least there was the attempt to do so, and they were going forward rather than going sideways.
I think if Radoni's fit yesterday, we don't see either Bojan or Healy. I think he'd have slipped in there as number 10. I'd have left out Bojan myself, Radulovic. I don't know if that's what Worthy had gone with, but that's what I'd have had. Because I think that first 15, 20 minutes before Healy went off, whilst he was there, as like you say, a shadow striker, man, it did feel like a bit more 4-4-2. And now the problem there was the best move were like, so we've been poor in midfield all season, and now you've brought in one of the better midfielders we've had over the last 25, 30 years to coach it, and instantly he sorted it out, because yesterday, Barry Bannon is Sheffield Wednesday's main man. Everything comes through him, and he sacrificed Alex Matos to man-mark Barry Bannon all over the pitch. And now in the first 20 minutes, the problem is we had Healy as like the third midfielder, who wasn't really dropping back the same as Wiles did later on. And what that meant is when Matos is following Barry Bannon, that's got a bit of a free role, it left Johnny Ogg to clean up the rest of the midfield. And that's why I reckon that first 20 minutes we got overrun in midfield, because Matos is following Bannon everywhere. Hogg just can't do it on his own. Honestly, I think the injury to Healy won us the game. And it's not nice saying that, but I just think Wiles coming in offered that much more structure in the middle that just kept Barry Bannon at he didn't offer anything after 25 minutes, because when Wiles came on, that space wasn't there for him to drop into. We had more men there ready to cover it. But I thought Matos were fantastic with Bannon, and Bannon did okay for that first 20 minutes. But if you're man marked for the first 20, 25 minutes, you're fine. But he's a 35, 34-year-old bloke, Barry Bannon, and eventually running that extra yard against Matos, who's 19. I know, younger than me, but still old.
He looks it, yeah.
But he's just Matos. You've got to run harder if you get him on mark, just to create that space. And it just wiped him out. He was just out of the game entirely after 30 minutes. And at that point, that's when Town took charge of the game. And it came again from Wiles dropping in. It was fantastic yesterday. He put a ball into Sorba more or less straight after he came on, and we should have scored that early on. But it was that midfield battle. Worthy sorted it out. He's man marked. I hadn't seen anybody man marking for Town for last year or so. Warnock might have played it a couple of times actually. I think Reggie might have done it once when he came on when he played under Warnock early on. Yeah. But it just straight away, it just looked like we had different assignments. Worthy looked like he looked at who we were playing and thought, right, we'll play that way to counter them. Pearson played because we need leaders. Hellick's not there. You need a leader. He's also the guy that's going to score goals for you. Hellick is the man at corners. Now, our corner technique is we've got one guy and everything's built around getting him to the ball, and it's Hellick normally. Pearson did it yesterday, and obviously we got the fruits of that later on, but it was just he had to play because he's so important and can be so influential. He was a little bit narrow at times, Matt, like you said, that switch ball over his head caught us a couple of times, but it was solid. I thought that first 15 minutes, Brodie Spencer was a little bit suspect. He cut in a couple of times. He headed one back into play where, to be honest, Matt, I thought we were lucky to be at 0-0 after 15 minutes. I thought Wednesday had a couple of chances to go ahead. I think Lee's blocked a shot, and Healy headed one off the line, didn't he, from the corner? But as soon as we made that change and Wiles came on, Worthy adjusted, and now Darren Moore was unable to adjust the game to make us better at any point. Yesterday, in Worthington's first game as coach, he managed to do it, and it won us the game in the end. And that's probably the best thing you could say about Worthy yesterday. He adjusted it with what was thrown at him, like you say, my injuries that he had to react to, he did, and we were better for it from the decisions he made.
Johnny,
both injuries, because you're absolutely right with the Wiles coming on and just naturally played well in that position. And I think, like I said, it was probably one of his better games. I thought he played really well in the Blackburn game, actually. We had a couple of 90s afterwards, one being Leicester. The other one, I can't remember. It wasn't fantastic, but they were tough opposition. And he's just been kind of left out, so he's going to be taking his chance. But I think, obviously, the pace that Koroma, because those two goals rely on kind of Koroma's pace and kind of direction, which I don't know whether we would have scored those goals if Bojan or Healy was on the pitch. So it's not that it's fortunate, it kind of is, but also it just shows that there's adaptability, which, like I say, we've not had. When I looked at the team, and instincts over Donny was missing and everything, so we think, it's just added to the list. You look at the list of players that are injured that could come into that team and make it better. We think that's why today's game. I did feel a bit sorry for Worthy, to be honest. When I looked at it, I thought he's got a bit of a tough task anyway, and it's just been made even harder. But it works. I think taking Bannon out of the game, quite literally, Matos took him out of the game a few times. I mean, how he managed to avoid a booking for long as he did was quite surprising, really.
He was unreal. Matos was unreal.
Yeah, go through him. That's something we've not seen Town players do as well for ages. Like, do you know what I mean? Be physical, be battle, fight, want it. Do you know what I mean? Bannon will get that. He's not going to shy out of a game, but it makes it a lot harder for him. So yeah, it worked. And it, going back to what Worthington said in his press conference, they are simple things. Following a man around the field and take out of the game, it's simple. Looking to pass forward quickly on someone who's got a bit of pace, it's simple. So yeah, it worked. And hopefully, Wiles can kick on from this as well, as much as Town can, because there is a player there. We've seen it in glimpses. We've also seen some shocking football from him as well. But I think he played really well yesterday. And hopefully we've not got it. He's not forced that he's playing there by way of an injury to another player, but hopefully he can start to nail down that position a bit more.
Phil, you get this, don't you? When a manager leaves, you get some players will dip, but some players will just lift right up. And Ben Wiles is a player that he's come with a bit of a reputation. Burnley almost signed him they were looking at around 4 million to sign him the year before. He's had some injuries, and when we signed him, Neil Warnock was very, very big on him. And we've not really seen the player that we hoped we'd get up to press. We've seen little flashes here and there, little moments, the odd pass in a game where you see the technique. Why is this? Why do some players kind of just lift up all of a sudden when a manager goes and look completely different?
strange, isn't it? Because the bottom line is, and we obviously in your workplace, relationships are massive out there, and sometimes you get on with certain coaches, sometimes you don't get on with certain coaches. That's just life, isn't it? So I think with Wiles, I said before, I think he looks a decent player. It just looks like a proper centre midfielder for me, but things just haven't been right. And sometimes if the team are struggling, and like we say, like he's playing a little bit more defensive under Moore, it might not suit his game. And you can see he's one of those players that just wants to try and drop into a pocket, turn out and play, do you know what I mean, and express himself. And obviously with Worthy being a midfielder, he might have been one of these players that he's seen. I mean, I speak to Worthy quite a lot about the players in the club, and he speaks highly of a lot of the players, but he sees things different than what past managers might have seen. And that's just football, isn't it? So I think Worthy will just go in and maybe some of these players that haven't had that kind of relationship with Darren Moore and haven't kind of been performing, it could easily change. It was like going back to what you said about Matty Pearson playing. It was interesting they put Matty Pearson in the team straight away, because obviously he knew him from Halifax, etc. But it was really interesting to see that because Matty's he's not played much football, has he? And it was a big game. But it goes back to the relationships you have with people and the trust that you have in them. And I think if a manager gets an arm around you and tells you how good you are, Neil Warnock's a prime example, tells you how good you are, this is what I need you to do, this is what you're good at, then hopefully that's how the players should be able to perform. But it's all about relationships, it really is.
Matty Pearson, so 65 minutes on the clock. I'll be honest, I was sat there, Radulovic had gone off, Josh Koroma had gone up front, and Josh Koroma wasn't really pulling up many trees in the game. He was okay. Wasn't the Josh Koroma we saw at the end of last season by any stretch at this point in the game. And I turned to my mate next to me and went, I don't see how we're going to score here. And, literally 3 minutes later, or 15 minutes later, we've got 4. And, shows what I know. But tell us about Matty Pearson, because it was going to be a set piece. He actually said, Tommy said, if we score it, it'll have to be a set piece. And Sorba Thomas delivers those wonderful in-swinging balls, doesn't he? He doesn't get it right 100% of the time. No professional really does. But, when he gets that right, they are phenomenally dangerous corners, Gary Roberts-esque, aren't they? He swung that in. Matty Pearson fights through, doesn't he? That's what you mean by leaders, don't you? He fights through that sort of crowd, doesn't he? And he gets his head on it, and it's a great header, and the celebrations are great. Phil, he's a proper slab head, isn't he? Sort of defender, he'll head anything away. He's not quite slab head like Maguire, more paving head maybe. But he's got this big forehead that he gets on stuff, and you need that grit, don't you? In the relegation battle, you need that fight from someone like Matty Pearson, who's going to be really key, isn't he, from now till the end of the season?
He's just a horrible boy, but in the same sense, he isn't. Off the pitch, he's lovely. He's a great kid, but when you get on the pitch, there's something about Matty. His resilience and determination is ridiculous. When we played with him at Halifax, he used to growl. I mean, I might have said this to you before. He used to growl on the pitch at players, go and close someone down and growl at them. You're like, Matty, what are you doing? And Matty Pearson is not the most technical footballer. He ain't the best footballer out there. And I said this before when he first came. I was a little bit shocked. And he has improved. But what you get with Matty is leadership. And not in a way of someone shouting at everybody. And he just leads by example. And it's no surprise he gets so many goals in the opposition's box because his determination is frightening. And there was, it wasn't a clean header, was it? It wasn't just one simple run into a space and head the ball into a goal. It was a fight. It was grappling. It was trying to get into tight areas, and really pleased for him. Really, I love his celebrations. He's just absolutely deluded.
He loved it, didn't he?
Slabhead. Yeah, we'll have to call him Slabhead next time we see him.
Paving head, I think that's what we can, because he's not quite slabby enough, is it? But he's. But boys, what happened then? Sheffield Wednesday went from, I think at that point, Sheffield Wednesday were probably slightly nudging ahead of us, in terms of being the better side. I think they were probably at that point more likely than us to score, or looked like they might be more likely than us to score a goal. And then we've done it, but they fell to bits, didn't they? They absolutely fell apart. And they didn't look too bad to me, but once we scored, they looked an absolute shower, didn't they? And the second goal, they're absolutely all. The two centre-backs were rubbish all game, I thought. The two Sheffield Wednesday centre-backs, thought they were awful. The second goal, it's a great ball, isn't it? It's Ben Wiles, isn't it, who plays it? And Josh Karoma's in behind, and that's a great finish. You can see it from the sort of like front on, and it curls around, because when he did it at first in the stand, it's like he slid it into the middle of the net, but it doesn't. It kind of curls around the post, and then it's a lovely finish by Karoma. The third one as well, and the fourth one Karoma gets as well, doesn't he? And it's absolute comedy, isn't it? The Sheffield Wednesday defender just inexplicably just knocks it back into space, doesn't he? And Karoma's onto it, and the keeper loses his head. He comes flying out, and then he gets then he pushes someone over, and it's an absolute mess. And it's the type of goal we haven't scored for ages. It's a lot of fun. And the third goal as well is really. I thought Jonathan Hogg played really well. When we played a sort of a two-man midfield, I was really worried about Hogg's mobility. Next to Matos, I know Matos is very Lewis O'Brien-like, isn't he, in terms of his legs and his ball carrying. And Matos was phenomenal all game. I thought it was really good. But Jonathan Hogg was really good as like a secondary to him, picking up in those spaces. And then he really sort of, again, Phil talks about leaders killer, and Jonathan Hogg was just sat there, wasn't he, and picking up, and he used the ball intelligently. I think it's Worthy's style suited Hoggy a lot more, because it goes forward, it goes diagonal a lot more than it goes sideways. And Hoggy has to pass through 11 players. He's not good at passing through 11 players. He's all right when he can hit those diagonals, and he hits that diagonal from the free kick, doesn't he, for Sorba Thomas, and Sorba takes it brilliantly as well. And I had absolutely. I thought Sorba can't. Sorba doesn't shoot, but he took it brilliantly as well. I didn't expect him to score, but it's just a great sort of 10 minutes at that point, isn't it, Killer? Because just you can pick any point there and run with it, mate. Because it's
thing is, no, you can see straight away. Worthy's changed Karoma and Thomas. Every touch they had was towards goal. And now Darren Moore, always out wide. First touch, always just at corners and cross it in. Yesterday, Karoma and Sorba straight down the middle every time they could. I thought as soon as Bojan went off, we looked a total different team. Now their centre backs looked terrible, Matt, but they bullied him. They bullied Radulovic. When he came in, I had a bit of a reservation about it, because okay, we've got Morelios, I think, came from the Finnish league, and we've got, is it Pukki came from the Finnish league as well?
Yeah, Timo Pukki now. Very different
strikers. You've got pace, and you've got a bit of a bigger, like, you've got pace, right? And now I don't think we've got that. I don't think we get that with Radulovic. And I just think he was just too easy for Sheffield Wednesday centre backs to take out of the game. And as soon as it changed and we had a bit more pace up there, and I actually think if we would have had Delano yesterday up front as a three with Sorba and Karoma, would have caused them problems from the off. As soon as we had that little bit of pace, they just fell apart. There was just nothing there. The Pearson goal is great. Like I mentioned earlier, that we have 5 runners in a straight line, level the penalty spot outside the box. 4 of them are there to clear it out, so Pearson can nod it in at the back post. I think Pearson ends up against a winger, and the winger didn't even try and jump for it. I don't know if it was Masabi or I don't quite know who it was for Sheffield Wednesday, but that's what it's designed to do. And like you say, he don't lose his one-on-ones. Pearson's never going to lose a one-on-one battle. And if you've got 11 men that can win one-on-one battles, you win the game more often than not. And Pearson, that's why he's in there yesterday. Worthy knew, reliable, he's going to do his job. And he did. I didn't know he growled, though. That's quite funny, that, Phil. I don't think I've come across that one before, but you can imagine it. It doesn't surprise anyone, does it? It's like, that's the kind of guy you expect him to be, and it's what you want. That second goal, fantastic, Matt. Alex Matos, he wins the ball back. He's all over. He's chasing down 3 Sheffield Wednesday guys trying to pass around in a triangle. He jumps in. And then Wiles plays it first time. I think, going back to your point, Phil, on Wiles, like in a different coach and stuff, I think another thing is we have the ball in the right positions on the field now. Wiles, I've not seen him before at Rotherham very much, only that he was obviously wanted by Burnley and stuff like that, Matt. But we have the ball in the midfield now with runners. And now that changes it for all your midfielders. We actually have a midfield. We've played 23 games. And even Warnock last year, there wasn't much of a midfield there. That's not how we play. Yesterday, for the first time, we did. And all of a sudden, Ben Wiles looks like an absolute baller. And he did. I'm not saying he's Aaron Moy just yet. I'm not going to go that far. But he can create, though. And we don't have many midfielders that can create. If we can get him playing like he did yesterday against other teams in the division, okay, I don't think Sheffield Wednesday are great. There's much better teams with better midfields out there. But you can only beat what you're playing against, and yesterday he really did. But like you say, Sorba and Karoma, the first Karoma goal, the keeper doesn't come out when he should. Phil can again go into that far more than I can, but he shits out a little bit. He just stays. He sticks back, and he should have gone, and he didn't, and that's why Karoma's just managed to walk up and put a great little finish in.
It doesn't stay or come, does he? It kind of just comes into no man's land and gets beat.
You can see the indecision. You can see he starts and he don't, and then once that's happened, you're over. A good striker's going to pop that in, no problem. But then for the fourth goal, he comes rushing out as fast as he can because he's thinking, I messed it up last time. I'm not sticking this time. I'm going to go. And then Karoma nearly messed it up again himself. And I think Diarra, basically American football, tackled the keeper to make sure it was clear.
Keeper pushed him. Yeah, I think if Karoma misses, it's a penalty. But keeper pushes him and then goes flying and falls over himself.
There was 4 bodies. There was bodies flying all over the place, and Karoma's still cool enough to pop it in.
Have you seen the Benny Hill music to that goal as well? The Sheffield Wednesday fan did. That was quite good.
Well, if he'd have missed, Albert Thomas would have killed him because he was fuming until he went in like, yeah, fair enough. Okay, no worries. But the thing is, our 3 goals, the 3 goals that come after we go 1-0 up, were Darren Moore football goals. And I know it's not necessarily good to give someone praise, but it is. We've played that way all season, where you get 1-0 up, then you can hit teams with pace on the counter if they push up. And that's what Sheffield Wednesday did. They had to come yesterday to win. And even at 1-0 down, they just pushed everyone forward. They were leaving it 1-on-1 at the back. And we've played this way for a year and a half because Warnock was pretty similar. He likes to play with pace on the break. And it just fell into our hands. It really did. It was never a 4-0 game, was it? It was never a 4-0 performance. No. But when you're built to counter-attack like that, and the other team have to come and get a result, and you go 1-0 up from a corner, fortunate with balance of play, like you say, Matt, over the first 65 minutes, we're built to win those games. It's just kind of strange against QPR last week when we did get 1-0 up, we all fell apart. Whereas this week, we stayed at it, and Sheffield Wednesday just couldn't live with us. Pedersen, their left back, he'll be having nightmares about this game for a long, long time. It wasn't quite as bad as Tom Edwards at Leeds, but it was pretty horrific because he was getting outpaced all game.
The stat for you, Johnny, is Huddersfield Town, whenever they've gone 1-up this season, have never lost. So there's an interesting stat that came from Ben Duckett for me.
I heard that, and it took me by surprise. It was on Leeds, or was it on somebody else? The only 2 teams. Was it Leeds? Yeah, was surprising. But hey ho, it's a positive stat, isn't it? Not many of them at the moment from Town, but
just tell us about Radinho Balca's debut then, Johnny, because I quite enjoyed this. He's very different, isn't he, to centre-backs that we've had before, and we needed the changes. He's a man with pace. And what I liked was there was one move which created a chance for us in the first half, and Balca had it facing goal, and instead of just passing it back to the keeper or kicking it to out of play, he did it. He turned back inside and took out Michael Smith, the striker for Sheffield Wednesday, and just ghosted past him, played it to Tom Lees, and then played it to Spencer out wide, and we attacked down the left, and it was like all of a sudden we played out from the back quickly and incisively, and he brought that sort of element, didn't he? That calmness. He's very sort of accurate, and his passes are very crisp as well. It's not, he doesn't sort of like under hit or anything. They're very firm and into feet, and in the air he was good as well, wasn't he? He didn't really put a foot wrong. I thought that was a good full debut.
Yeah, it was. I think he was. I think we've got to quickly touch on the QPR. I'm a little bit concerned, kind of coming in for a full debut, an important game. But no, he put any kind of worries like that to bed quite quickly, and he got an early booking as well, which can sometimes make it a little bit more difficult from a centre back. You're kind of thinking about that in the back of your mind, but clearly didn't let it bother him. I love the fact we've got 2 centre backs now who can absolutely do a fake pass to an absolute tee. Hellick's brilliant. Every single centre forward he sends the wrong way with his fake pass, and Balca did a couple of them against Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend, so we can get them next to each other. They'll have centre forwards on their asses a few times, but it's nice. It's nice to see. A lot of times we've relied on Lees to kind of be playing that out ball, and Lees is a great defender, but it's not one of his strengths. Certainly when there's not a lot of options to even pick out as well. So it's nice to we've got another kind of ball playing centre back. I don't think we're going to become a Swansea of division, but it's still useful to have that somewhere. It takes a bit of pressure off. They can look to take the ball forward. They're comfortable on it. If they can get a bit of an overload midfield by a defender kind of advancing forward, it does help. And it was nice to see. We kind of expected that a little bit of him just from the scouting reports, and the one that Stephen Chicken did kind of said he's comfortable on the ball. He's a little bit of a maverick of a centre back, and he might have the kind of odd error in his locker as well. But if you're going to be a defender that takes a little bit more risks and plays a little bit more on the edge, then that's going to happen. But no, I thought it was quite assured performance, did everything he needed to do. But yeah, I think it looks like a reasonable addition to that. Probably quite a strong part of our squad, really.
Phil, what? When you played in goal, you played with played with quite a few defenders. You played with a certain Effie Sodji, didn't you, as well? It must have been a bit of a nightmare at times. But a defender with pace, what difference does that kind of make to you as a goalkeeper?
A defender who thinks they can pass really well, like a centre midfielder, scares the life out of me. So when Sodji thought he was, like, remember that ball Sodji played? I think it were, who did we play now?
Yeovil, where he played it to Pav.
Diag. He's never, ever kicked a ball straight in his life. So that was lucky. Defenders with pace, they worry me because with my experience, sometimes positionally, they'll hold a position and know that their pace will get them out of trouble. There were a lad who played with us at Halifax called Scott Hogan, Liam Hogan, who ended up going to Stockport. I think he was at FC United. Absolutely rapid, but he would hold kind of a silly line. He wouldn't maybe come around and cover enough, and just rely on his pace, and it'd get himself in trouble so many times. But if you use it to your advantage, it's absolutely priceless. Because you can hold a higher line as a goalkeeper if you need to. If there's just a little bit more trust in what they're able to do, but like I said, for me, first and foremost, they've just got to be able to defend well. So pace is relevant. John Dyson had zero pace at all, but he was my favourite defender to play behind because you knew exactly where he was going to be. He was always in the right place at the right time. He had zero pace, but he didn't need it because he could read the game really well. So. Yeah, I think it's a bonus, but I don't think it's the biggest thing that you need to look for in a defender, to be honest. I think it's more in terms of like his defending and that, like Johnny mentioned there, that the goal at QPR worried me because that was a basic mistake that really you shouldn't see any centre half making, for that ball to go the wrong side of him, and it wasn't even like an unbelievable ball. That worried me, but it sounds like he had a good performance yesterday, so it's obviously a bit pleasing. And it'd be nice to see him next to Helic as well, because like I say, Helic's got the height and wins, his aerial duels really well. So a quicker defender in and around him could work really well, couldn't it?
What really worked well yesterday, though, with Bolka wasn't necessarily just his pace. It would scare you, Phil, though. But he turns inside and breaks the press quite a lot. Like he just constantly broke the strikers. So he's pushed into that midfield, and then what that means is their midfield have to adjust. And as a midfielder, that shits me up because you're like, oh my god, he's broken strikers press, and one of us has to go. Who's going? And he just did that a few times, and now as a keeper, I'm imagining that's terrifying because if he's turning and get caught, and he will get caught at this level, he will definitely get caught a couple of times turning into trouble.
Yeah,
and it's going to cost us goals. I can't see him getting to the end of the season without that happening. But just yesterday, just that little turn. Instead of that predictable pass back to Nichols or the pass back to the fullbacks, he just turned and just took it past a man, and we were away. And I really think that's something we can work on going forward. And that's why I think Worthy had him in there, just to kind of do that, just to make us unpredictable a little bit. Because the worst thing you can do is pass slowly at the back. It gives the other team time to set. And any professional team, once set, are very, very difficult to break down. That's why you get League Two teams going to Premier League teams and doing okay, because they set, they focus on setting up. Okay, they're not going to score many goals, but they'll set. And just having that centre back there that can just turn a striker and go really, really affects other teams. The problem is we'll get caught by it, and hopefully it's not in the big games that matter. But yesterday it didn't matter. It surprised me. I was terrified. Fantastic media low, quite close to him in that first half when we were doing it a couple of times. And like you say, against QPR, he looked pretty soft. That mistake he made to me was again a physicality thing. I don't think he's quite used to this level just yet, because obviously from the Dutch second division, it's not going to be as bad as the Championship is. So I was worried about it. And when he's starting to turn yesterday, I'm thinking he's just going to get bowled over here. But he wasn't. He got away with it yesterday. And maybe that's me being unfair. Maybe he's able to do this every game. It's just, it will be quite scary to watch at times. But when he gets it right, it really will help the midfield start being able to turn over and try and create chances further upfield.
Said this before, haven't we, on the pod, like we're not great at breaking lines and moving the ball forward and turning players around. And like you say, that it will benefit. Nathan Clark used to do it quite well. He used to step into midfield quite a lot and just play simple passes into Worthy, etc. And it is difficult, and we haven't done that enough. So yeah, maybe it might be a bit of a positive. Like Helic likes to do it, doesn't he? You know, he likes to step in and play that way. So yeah, it's just a different kind of a different skill set that we're probably needing. What do you think when Helic's back? Do you think the manager, whoever we get, do you think they'll look at that and think we'll stick with a 3 at the back? If because Lee's obviously playing well, and it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it, what somebody wants to do and whoever we get and how they want to play. Because there's a lot of good quality players there really now.
I think the back four is crucial at the moment because it's working. Yeah. I think it worked against QPR. So for me, I was thinking about this earlier. If it was a better team we're playing against, I'd go with Lees and Hellick because I think you want your leaders, and I would have Pearson at right back, and I'd stick with Brody Spencer at left back because I thought what we have there yesterday was good, but I'd take Bolker out against the better teams and go for the more structured kind of back four. And then when we're playing weaker teams, I'd be chucking Bolker in there to break that front line so we can dominate the game a little bit more. I won't go back to the back five. The only problem I have with the back five, I've spoken to Matt about this so much. I hate it.
The back five so much.
It's like you attack with 10 men. It's like when you're attacking, you have one man less, and that's why you can't score goals playing with the back five, from my experience. And it can work in a short period of time, or it can work if it's like a 3-4-3, and you're so much better than the other team. You know you're going to be able to push on and have a good go. But the way we are in this division, where we're scrapping for our lives, we can't dominate midfield. If you go with a back five, there's a man less. You don't have your Wiles, you don't have your secondary striker there. And it just means you don't dominate the games and you don't score enough goals, as we found under Darren Moore. We can draw games. You might draw 3 out of 3. Fine. Sorry, you might out of 2 games. Sorry, you might draw 2 games. That's 2 points. But if you go for it, you might win 1 and lose 1, and you end up with 3, and you're better off because of it. And that's why I think I'd be shifting Bolker and Lees in and out depending on who we were playing. But to be fair, Phil, with the amount of injuries we get, I think it's going to be selected for us rather than much of it. For the manager.
What do you do with Nakayama then when he's back from the Asian Cup? Because I like Yuta Nakayama, and I'd quite like to see him next to a solid back four because he can wrap around, can't he, and provide that added protection, and he can use the ball really well. Naturally left-footed, obviously. He can play the ball into midfield, and you've got Balker and Nakayama then able to do so, and like you say, break the press and play the ball through the thirds into the midfield. And I like him, mate. I pick Nakayama at left back. The question then is, what do you do with Brody Spencer? Because Brody Spencer's been superb since he's come back. You threw him in against Grealish, and he did a good job against Jack Grealish in the FA Cup. And then he played. He went from right wing back to left centre back, and then he went to right centre back, and then he played right back against QPR, and then he's played left back yesterday. There's shades of Lee Peltier with a young Lee Peltier with Brody Spencer, just in how sort of versatile he is, and the style. He's quite. His touch can be quite heavy sometimes, but he's that quick. He kind of like gets to it, before the opposition. He's very sort of physical as well. And I like a lot of what I've seen with Brody Spencer. I really like him as a player. I've been a fan of him for quite a while. What do you do with him? Because you need Matty Pearson sometimes, don't you? You need your leaders out there. It's not a bad thing to have, is it, Phil? The whole you've got 6 players there, haven't you? You got Lees has been. I think people have underestimated Tom Lees since he signed. I thought Tom Lees was our second best player in 21-22 when we got to the playoffs. I thought he was outstanding, Tom Lees. Last year, I thought he was really good in the second half of it, and I think he's been really good, Tom Lees, since October time. I think quietly quite decent. He's just been solid, reliable, and he's a good pro, isn't he? These are good problems to have all of a sudden, aren't they? Because we've gone from shit, who are we going to play, to shit, who are we going to play?
But we need this, don't you, at this stage of the season now, where points are vital and performances are vital as well. You need your bigger squad, and it looks like, hopefully if we keep people fit, we'll get that. Lees is my type of defender all day. Like I say, he's a John Dyson-esque. You know what you're going to get. Well, he's obviously better than Dyson. I'm joking. But you know what you're going to get. Experience. You know what he's going to be, etc., etc. So it's difficult. It really is difficult. I think for us, really, the main concern is where our goals coming from, and then I think that then filters back down towards the back and has less effect. But I don't know. Who do you want to be manager?
I'd be reluctant to take Brody Spencer out just because of how well he's playing, but also to how much he's improving. I think game on game he's getting significantly better. And I mean that'll plateau at some point as it does with younger players, and he might drop. But another player to throw in there as well is Headley, because I thought he was doing exceptionally well before he's going to come out for injury. We might actually find something out a bit more about injuries now. I don't know how long he's out for. I don't know what injury he's got. But again, if he comes back into the mix, he didn't do anything wrong. He was a positive player rather than somebody looking to replace as well. So like I said previously, it's an area that across that back four that's probably has been the strongest for a while and certainly the strongest at the moment. But I'm reluctant to take Brody Spencer out. The other thing I'd maybe touch on a curveball is Nakayama out of contract under this season?
Yeah,
I think he is. So I don't know if that plays into it as well. I think he's done all right. I don't think he'll be the cheapest player in the books. If we're looking to give him a contract, that might lean more towards playing him. If we're not, maybe not, because you might look at. I mean, you've got to win the games first. That's priority. Whether someone's in contract next season or not, that's first and foremost. But you've got a couple of players there we've just mentioned who will be, then probably more potential in the future. And if you're looking to kind of shift money around and invest contracts elsewhere, dropping in Nakayama, having a slightly cheaper option who's performing and moving money elsewhere might also work as well and play into it. So there's a lot of things football wise, and then obviously above that to kind of consider, I'd say, in that answer.
I like it.
Sorry, Phil. That is important, Johnny, though, the money side of it. We signed Terence Congolo in the Premier League for way more money than we should have, because we didn't need to spend that much money on a defender at that point, where we had Zanka, we had Schindler, we had Lerber still, and we had Tom Smith. We didn't need to spend off of our budget on a defender. We paid the price for that one, and I think that's a bit the same with Yuta. Although I do like him. I think Matt and I spoke about it quite a bit. He's a strange left back. Like, he's a big guy, but his positional sense is unbelievable. He gets in the right position. All of a sudden, he's just there and he's creating chances as a left back. And at that point, nobody else was. I don't know how he does it, because he's not particularly fast. He's not particularly great in the air, but his positional sense is really, really good. So I do think there's a way to use him between now and the end of the season. But I'm with you, Johnny. I think looking on to next year, if he is expensive, and is he the Japanese captain? Is he captain still? He was for a couple of the games leading up to the cup.
Not sure,
but I think it might just been for the friendlies. But he's not going to be cheap, and I think these more important places to spend money on our team as it is today. So I'd be looking at giving Brody Spencer the go. But then it's going to be at left back if Pearson's playing at right back, and he's not supposed to be a left back. And just a quick go back there as well. And in that he does learn, and the best part about him is he adapts again in games. The first 50 minutes, I thought he was awful. He nearly gifted goals away, but then he won the corner that we actually scored from. It was a header at the back post he was threatening at, and that went out, and we scored from it. He learns throughout the game who he's playing against, and like Pearson wins his one-on-one battles, Spencer kind of does by the end of a game. And now for a 19-year-old lad, I think he's still 19. That's quite rare, and you've got to give him that kind of chance to improve by giving him first-team football. And I think he's a player that might be with us for quite a long time. So even just that alone, I'd be going. And with Worthy, academy guy, of course, he's going to give him the options and the chances to do it. Hopefully we get somebody in that's kind of got a similar outset, because he's definitely a player there who could go quite a long way in the game.
3 tackles, 3 interceptions for Brody Spencer. Who's the man of the match then? Let's round up the game just with the man of the match, then we'll talk about the manager next. Who are we going for? Johnny, who's your man of the match?
I'll probably say Karoma, but there's so many you could pick out. I really like Matt's performances as well. I think the obvious one, the papers would give it Karoma, but I think a real true football man would give it Matos, just for what he enabled the rest of the team to do, and what he potentially stopped Sheffield Wednesday from doing. So I'd pick out those two, but I'll probably give it Karoma.
Killer?
Yeah, I'm with Matos. I think Matos won that. He didn't necessarily win the game for us, but he stopped Sheffield Wednesday having the ability to win. And then on top of that, we kind of built from there. I thought he was phenomenal. I think the first couple of games we saw him, the Man City game especially, when he nearly cleaned out and murdered 2 players in 10 seconds, he looked pretty rash. But again, another guy that seems to be learning as he's playing. Yeah, we're lucky not to get booked to the weekend, but he's tempering the way he goes into tackles. He's just simmering it down a little bit, understanding that, okay, I don't need to kill him first time. I can stand up and get him second time and third time. And that's where the second goal came from. There were 2 chances of him sliding in and trying to get the ball, and he didn't. He just stood up, held his position. And when the third pass came, it was a little bit sloppy. He was in straight to Wales, and we're away, and we're 2-0 up, and the game's ours. Alex Matos was the reason why Sheffield Wednesday couldn't create anything, because he stopped Barry Bannon. And there's not many players in this division that stop Barry Bannon, but he managed it on the weekend.
All at 19 as well. 19 years old, Alex Matos. Alex Matos, my man of the match as well. I reckon Phil will probably go for Matty Pearson. Worthy. So, yeah, big credit to Jon Worthington. And we're all delighted for him, because Worthy's a top guy. Huddersfield Town guy as well. Let's talk about the next manager. We'll lead into that. So, Mr. Nixon, Alan Nixon, who does get a lot of information from agents, whether that sometimes is accurate, sometimes maybe not. A lot of the time it is. but a lot of the time it's leading for some, let's say. He's posted this today about Michael Duff being ahead of the queue for the Huddersfield Town job. Kevin Nagle took to Twitter to answer a naysayer, was it? Would you say? Because I think somebody had sort of said, "Why don't you discuss any foreign options?" And he said, "What makes you think we're not? We are doing." Which opens the, I mean, it's not Kevin Nagle who said that. Heckingbottom, Duff, Alex Neil, etc. It's not him who sort of said that. It's just the bookies. It's the way it is. Duff is someone. I talked to somebody who works in football, and he said to me that if he was Mark Cartwright, Kevin Nagle, Michael Duff would be the person that he'd approach to do the job because he's brilliant out of possession coach. He's excellent at like Killer mentioned, structure. He's all about great out of possession structure. Plays a brand of football which is all about pressing and quick, intense, getting at players, but in possession, it can be a bit more sort of direct or laboured, depending on what's available in front of them. The thing with Michael Duff is his number 2, Martin Patterson, ex-Town striker Martin Patterson's got the job at Burton, so that's a bit of a black mark. Maybe that is number 2's elsewhere. He also tends to commute from Cheltenham as well, and still got sort of bad memories of Chris Powell living on the M1 in Wakefield just so he could get away back down to London as soon as possible, after the game, and Town perhaps not training a lot or as much as what they did under David Wagner because Chris Powell liked his time in London. So there's that sort of thing. But from the recent last week, Phil, who's the one that sort of sticks out to you that you like? And is there any sort of... I keep banging on about Stefan Baumgart. I made a thing for it last week. Apparently he doesn't speak English, so it probably won't happen. But Killer's screen's frozen, so we'll move on from Killer and we'll go to Phil. Phil, who is it that sort of...
He's just deep in thought, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like he's really pensive, doesn't he?
I get bored of this now because every time we have an opinion on someone and we think it's going to be a good idea, really, let's bring this guy in, let's have a look at this player, blah, blah. It never seems to turn out well for us. So yeah. I literally have no opinion on who we need to bring in. I just want someone to come in and just be positive. As simple as that. There's a decent group of players there that just need a little bit of guidance. And I just want someone to come in and just play some positive football. Doesn't have to be all out attack. I'm not interested in all that, like play a certain brand or certain style, possession football or whatever. I'm not bothered about any of that. I just want someone to come in and be positive. What stood out for me was, and we'll go back to it, Worthy's interview were fantastic. And I want someone like that with that same passion, with that same clear understanding of what they want to do. No bullshit, we're not going to talk about this just to please people. I'm just going to tell you exactly how it is, and that's what I want. So whichever manager can come and give us that, brilliant. People spoke about Heckingbottom. I'm not sure. I'm not really. What about John Eustace? Is he still free or?
Yeah, he's around. Yeah, he was linked in Football League World, which tends not to be a great great insight. But
out of the season, he were getting a tune out of them, and then obviously their decision was to relieve him of his duties, etc. But he obviously got a tune out of those players, and I wouldn't say they've got an amazing squad to go through. So. I'm not sure. The only other option is just to go and chase a manager that's already at a club. And
the only thing that worries about Eustace is it's quite. I agree with you there, Phil. But it's such a small period of time that he had a club. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's like And I don't think anyone expected Birmingham to do what they did do. They made some all right signings, but it wasn't necessarily like anyone incredible. So it's whether if it's different. Do you know what I mean? And he comes in and he's kind of behind the scenes a bit beforehand. So that's anything that worries me. But again, I'll probably agree out of them two to be slightly more exciting. The only thing I'd add there is it's just such. I've said this before in our WhatsApp, but it's just such a shame that all our appointments the last few years, really, probably apart from the Cobra one to a certain extent, have had to be where there's so much at risk that you're thinking, well, for somebody to think, well, they could be all right. There's something there, but you can't make that appointment because you you can't take the risk. So do you go with a Duff or Heckingbottom, someone like that, or a Rowett, for example? We think, well, it's probably not going to be too exciting, but we'll probably stay up with the manager of that ilk. And it's just a shame we always seem to have to make these appointments where you've got to do it under that vein. We're not sat, like when Bristol sat Pearson, to take an example. They're not going to go down, so they can try and have a bit of a feel. Do they want to take a bit more of a risk on someone who might work and be a Corberan or a Wagner or might not, but ultimately it's not going to be too detrimental. It'd be nice to be in a position where we could look to do that, but we never seem to be. So it's always a little bit
on the back foot.
Risk first, yeah.
I mean, John Eustace is interesting, Killer, because I mean, I think people forget, and I didn't know until I'll be honest, I didn't know until I just went on Wikipedia that he was manager of Kidderminster for 2 years in the National League, and they used to refer to them as the non-league Barcelona when he was there for the style of play, and people did that as well, didn't they, with Pete Wild, with his style as well, and Ian Everett when he was at Barcelona, they used to call them, didn't they? So he's got that. He's got a 53% win ratio at Kidderminster, which is in over 100 games. So that's decent, He then left to go to QPR to be Steve McLaren's assistant, whether it might be the Dutch to English translator, I'm not sure. And then he's had a spell at caretaker at QPR where he's only had 7 games and they've won 2, lost 4. And then Birmingham last year, Birmingham were tough last year. They were awkward, weren't they? They had all sorts of financial off-field issues. They were a really difficult club to be at, and a lot of them predicted them to be relegated actually last season. I remember doing our pre-season show with Adam D from Blues Focus, and he predicted them to come 24th last season. They were really down on the owners and everything around them, and they stayed up pretty secure and safe. Phil tipped them for the playoffs, but they stayed up. They stayed up pretty secure and safe, and this season, he really had them rolling, didn't they? There were 6 when they removed him for Wayne Rooney. And no one's talking about Wayne Rooney for the Town job, thankfully. Good. But, there's something there with John Eustace, which I kind of like. But I think when you look at it, there's a slow start, and you just wonder, can we afford a manager to have a slow start where we are? We need that instant uplift, don't we? That some of them got. I mean, Warnock, we had it, but only after a month, didn't we? It took a month to get that. So you kind of think we need someone to hit the ground running. And is John Eustace that man? I'm not sure, but I mean, medium to long term, it could be quite good.
Is anybody that man though that's going to be able to come in and to a squad that they don't know and to hit the ground running? We're in a position.
Big Sam
struggling that way. Big Sam, yeah.
He fits the mold. The thing is, Eustace. It does fit the mold of what Nagel sounds like we're after. Kind of, we want to have that kind of identity again, and that's the only thing I have against it really is that it's okay doing it at non-league level, but we're at the Championship level here, and I think to play that kind of football requires quite a bit of money, right? And he's not coming here, and Eustace won't be coming here with like overseas contacts and bringing in like a German influx like we did under David Wagner. We had a very clear way we went about it, and whilst I think Eustace is probably I did fancy Heckingbottom, but it sounds like that's definitely a bit of a no-go at the moment. It fits, and as the English or homegrown kind of managerial talents go, he's about as good as there is. And I understand that, and I think there is a fit there. But personally, for me, I think with a club that we are, and we're trying to overachieve based on the money we can spend, you have to try and find extra value elsewhere. And that's how David Wagner worked. And that's how I know Corbyn were at Leeds before, but again, it's your overseas coach that have come in with a new style of football that either works or it doesn't. It can fail. We've failed a couple of times before by doing this. But I think for us to overachieve based on the money we have, it requires something special. And I think special managers within the English lower leagues are not kind of don't have the same upside as you get from like a Borussia Dortmund assistant coach. I know Danny Roll yesterday got kind of put paid to this argument in that his setup yesterday was absolutely awful with Wednesday, but
he's done a good job there though, hasn't he? From where they were.
Well, again, and the fans are pretty happy with him, and that he's starting to build something. And you're right, we have to. The problem we have here, it's halfway through the season. This should have probably happened when Darren Moore came in a few months ago, or maybe in the summer if we wouldn't have taken Warnock on further and would have changed it then. But now we find ourselves at the end of January. We've got 16 games left to go, and we need to find some results. So Eustace or somebody else, if they're trying to imprint their own style, it's a difficult one to find. Just fundamentally, I think we have to find extra value. We have to find some way of doing it better than everybody else in this division, and I don't see how you can do it with a coach in the lower leagues from here. So for me, I want us to go out and try Sywert again. I know that one didn't work and Fotheringham didn't work, but Coburn didn't. So did Wagner, and I think that's what it requires to really overachieve at this level with the club that we are. And honestly, I think that's the way we're going. I think with the way Nagel's speaking on his tweets, I do think we're scouring that market, and I really wouldn't be surprised if that's the way we went at this point.
No, neither would I. And to be fair, what Worthy's done by beating Sheffield Wednesday 4-0, he's given them time, hasn't he, to really sort of make that as well. So Worthy's, he could take that. There's no pressure going into that Southampton game, so you could technically give Worthy that Southampton game. And even if we lose 4-0, people will just shrug their shoulders and go, well, it's Southampton, isn't it? They're second in the league. So there's no sort of pressure, is there, to sort of make a rash decision, where if we'd have lost to Sheffield Wednesday, people would have been like banging on the doors of the stadium. We need to get a manager in now. And it would have probably forced a rushed decision, or maybe just forced a Michael Duff or one of those local, sort of locally based ones in quickly. Whereas at least now they can kind of really sit and think about this, because Darren Moore came in quite quickly, didn't he? Once Neil Warnock had annoyed them enough to move him on, I guess. I mean, Neil Warnock's on the verge of going to Aberdeen, isn't he? That's going to be so much fun. Is that? I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, Worthy. It's great to have him there and doing this so that he can buy them time, and I think that's what Worthy's done there, which is really great. I mean, I want the foreign approach. I want something different, like you, Killer. I mean, I saw the other day someone kept mentioning Pep Linders, the second in command to Jurgen Klopp, who's looking for his first full-time job when Klopp leaves at the end of the season. But that's the end of the season. And I mean, if we go to Southampton, Worthy sneaks as a 1-0, there's an argument then to say, all right, maybe he could have it for at the end of the season, and you can wait for somebody who's, going to be available at that point. It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be on a week-by-week basis, because also if we get piped at Southampton 4-5-0, people are going to go, all right, thanks, Worthy, off you go now, we need a proper manager, because that's what people do, isn't it? But, the result yesterday was fantastic, and it's definitely bought them some breathing space on it, Phil.
I won't want us to keep all the Worthy, and I won't want to spoil him, if you kind of know what I mean. We're so negative, aren't we? As a fan base at times, where it's just all doom and gloom, and rightly so, we're Danimals, but people just Worthy would take it over and he'd do his best. Simple as that. We saw it with Danny Schofield. He tried doing that. He tried doing his best and trying doing what he wanted to do. I won't want him being spoiled
in the same
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It got me, because we're so proud to see him yesterday and doing what they did, and etc. And the family being there and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I think, like you say, if he gets results, I think they might try and maybe keep him a little bit longer. Like you said there, Matt, I totally agree with you, but I just don't want us to rush anything. I'm sick of us getting things wrong. It's just tiring. Let's just make some good decisions for once, just for once. It's not hard. Make some good signings that we're going to carry on with. Make a good signing of a manager. Get things right in behind the scenes. Let's just get it right for a change and start building bigger and better. Because it really is frustrating when we don't make the right decisions. I tried being positive about Darren Moore for as long as I could. It worked great. Look at the difference. We played Sheffield Wednesday away. We should have absolutely battered them. They were woeful on that day, absolutely woeful, and we couldn't even bloody muster an attack or set up a decent formation to go and beat them. It's just so painful. So we've got to get things right. We've got to get it right. We can't have another Darren Moore incident. We need to make sure we get the right person in.
I think they need to get it right just for themselves as well, because they've had a few decisions to make, haven't they? Because they had the decision to keep Warnock on, then they had the decision to sack him. Then they had a decision to hire more. And personally, I wouldn't have kept Warnock on. You can keep him on. I wouldn't have sacked him when he sacked him. And I wouldn't have hired more. So they're kind of like 3 for 3.
Yeah, exactly.
At the moment. So that you don't want to go 4 for 4, because then he can't be done. So there's a lot of pressure for them to get it right.
And I think it's, I don't think Kevin Nagel's, I don't think he's got that understanding of the league and English football at all. So he's relying on these two fellas who are working for him 100%. For me, he just comes across as a businessman, and he's keen for change. You can see that. He seems sincere enough, but he hasn't got that understanding. I don't think he had that understanding over in America, to be honest, from whispers I've heard with people who've been involved in the game over there, etc. So there's a lot of pressure on these two fellas here to make sure they get things right, and they're brought into. They've got the knowledge. They should have the knowledge.
He's certainly learning the hard way at the minute, but he's been over here and he's certainly learning and taking a more active approach, which is great. I think he really sort of galvanized a lot of the support, didn't he, by coming over and showing his face and getting involved. I think most people loved it, didn't they? I like the guy, me. Yeah, I like the guy.
I mean, I had an interview on Radio Leeds, and I don't like how much chairmen get involved if in that way. I mean, I don't think they need to be seen in and around the place too much. The players, that's your environment. It's us versus them kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That's what you build, and you don't really want people who don't understand the game. Imagine someone sitting down next to Johnny Ogden telling him why he's, why.
Imagine me telling him how to play midfield. Yeah, but
do you know what I mean? Everyone can have an opinion, but imagine Johnny Ogden sat there on that table thinking, "What the hell are you talking about?" So, I do like what he's trying to do. To be honest, he seems a decent guy, and he seems like he's got the club in the right place, within him. So let's see how it goes. But this is a massive decision, I think.
Johnny, you didn't give a name really. Who you'd fancy? Let's give us one name, and then I've got something to play after
that. It's like what I said before. Going back to kind of security, first and foremost, we've got to stay in division for multiple reasons, and I think probably the best, the most convincing. I think the shot we've got at that is probably a Duff. As much as I'm not necessarily too excited about it equally, because I think our strengths do lie in off the ball, personally, and I think if we can get someone who can really solidify that. And then, like I said, can be quite simple in how they want to attack and kind of do what Worthington do and what Warnock do, try and get it forward quickly and direct. We'll probably be all right. It's equally with use, fair enough. So, I mean, it's like we said, not as much of a sample size, not much of experience behind him, so slightly worrying. But yeah, that would do. Whether it's someone who's going to be gone in 18 months, possibly. And if it's someone we've not heard of and it works, that fair enough. They've rolled dice and it's a gamble. But out of the names that have been linked so far, the only people I can really comment on, if Duff got it, I wouldn't necessarily be too upset. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have been too upset if he got it at the start of the year as well.
I wanted him in the summer. Yeah, it was the guy.
Yeah, so it's funny how time can change a little bit. But I think it'd be a fair enough appointment from the options they've got and the situation the club is in at the moment to pick up someone like Duff and say, right, well, we can start to build and let's see where we are in 12 months' time.
Well, I've had a left field suggested to me. So if you look on Instagram, there's an account on there called Tactico Huddersfield Town, and it's a lad called Aidan Grover, who's a Huddersfield Town fan from America, who sent me a little voice note I'm going to play, and it's just 5 minutes here of something that he's looked into, and he thinks this person will be the man for the job.
What's up, guys? It's Tactico Huddersfield Town here. Just here to give you guys a quick little suggestion of a guy that I think could maybe be a good managerial candidate for us, and that's Mark Jackson, which I'm sure some Town fans will be familiar with, given his Leeds connections. And I'm not thrilled about that either. But I have to say that when I was looking for managers that could potentially be realistic options for us, man, he's in blistering form right now. He's got Central Coast Mariners in Australia, which we know is a league that we saw the likes of Angie come from, and we know Australia has made good footballers for us in the past, and so now we've got proof that that side of the world is making like legitimate championship and beyond level talent, both on the pitch and off the pitch. So I just wanted to look at his record recently, and he's 10 games unbeaten in the last 10 matches. For a team that doesn't really have like one of the top 3 budgets in that league, that's pretty good. He's got them competing for the title, which probably is going to make it a little bit harder for us to like poach him away from them. But It's just a shout, man, because I think that when you see these English managers go abroad, I think what most of them would really want is that to be back around the English media and like make a name for themselves and eventually progress further up their careers. Because I know MK Dons fans rated this guy pretty highly, and said that it was he didn't stay there because their squad just it wasn't able to adapt to what he wanted from them. But I just look at what he's doing right now, and I think like we've got creative players in the side. Like we've got a really nice just like front three, front four, even that we could make now with Radulovic, who I just like. I think I really like what I've seen from him in the brief little moments. I thought he was our best player versus Blackburn, as crazy as that sounds, even though he didn't even play very often. But he just looked like so intelligent in where he was taking up space and what he can do is that central nine. I just like. I think there's a world in which we could push aside this narrative that we're some industrial team, and we can get the likes of Jack Rudoni and Sorba Thomas, just like up top and really in a free flowing system, so that they don't have to track back so much, and just like use so much effort to do things other than what their natural positions are. And I just don't think Mark Jackson, for example, would come in and play this rigid, negative 3-5-2 that someone like Darren Moore would play. And at this point, I really just I want to just see this team be expressive, man. I want to see them get forward, because we concede goals no matter what. Like when we park the bus, or if we put 11 men behind the ball, it doesn't even matter. We still concede. Why not try and focus on some of the strengths that we have? I mean, that touch and finish from Rudoni, I know that it was lucky that the ball kind of landed at his foot, but it was coming with pace, and that touch to just control it and subsequently finish it like that, I mean, that's clinical. That is clinical stuff, and he's capable of that on a weekly basis. And I just think if we find someone to get that out of our two best creative players, like him and Sorba, and maybe Radulovic too, and Healy, given how he recovers, it's just I think we've got a lot of talent in this squad. I really do. More than being just relegation fodder, I think we can at least go to lower mid half of the table if we just get someone in here that inspires confidence and just gets these guys to play on the front foot, just to stop being scared, Yeah, but that's just my thoughts. Again, it's not exactly the best thing to go on there and see that he's got years and years worth of coaching at Leeds United, but you got to do what you got to do to win in this industry. And Carlos came from Leeds, which is also why he kind of reminds me of that. And we know I hate Leeds too. I think their fan base is just, I think they're one of the most annoying fan bases in the entire world. But it's just you got to do what you got to do to win games. And I think someone like Mark Jackson, he looks impressive to me personally. And I think he'd be itching for the chance to come back to England and do something really noteworthy. And saving Huddersfield Town from the drop this year would be something pretty noteworthy.
Okay, so thanks to Aidan for that. The person that he thinks to be a real sort of candidate for the job is Mark Jackson. So ex-Huddersfield Town defender Mark Jackson, currently managing in Australia. Your neck of the woods, Killer, or former neck of the woods. Mark Jackson's gone down to. It's all right, mate. I'll let you Google what he's up to while I'm filling it in. He's down there. Danny Schofield's his number 2 at the minute. Yeah, so he's gone with Danny Schofield, and apparently he's got them playing some fantastic football over there in Australia with Danny, and they're taking on teams with bigger budgets and doing a good job. I mean, Mark Jackson as a player, I don't know if you remember him, Phil. He came on loan, didn't he, with Jacko? He wasn't good, really. Synonymous with that 7-1 defeat at Barnsley, and which wasn't good. Your mate Nico Vasson had a bit of a stinker that day as well, didn't he? But Delroy gave us some hope at the end. What a game. So Mark Jackson ex-Leeds, mostly known for being at Leeds, coming through their academy, but his coaching career seems to have taken off. Killer. I'm not sure if I've given you enough time to look at Wikipedia there for.
I think I did my B license with Jacko many years ago. He's a nice guy. He's a good lad, and obviously he's had he's spent a lot of time at Leeds, and obviously that's where his link with Danny is. So that'd be it's an interesting shout, really. Young, like I say, so young, full of energy. So yeah, but what team's he at in Australia?
Is it Central Coast? Is it Central Coast Mariners? I'm guessing because I've just seen it. But they're like really an unfancied team in Australia. They're kind of like the place you don't want to go. I think it's Newcastle based. It's in between Brisbane and Sydney. But Matt, cheers rubbing in. I'm not there anymore. Nice one. That's lovely. That's a lovely little side shot there. But the only thing with Australian football, if I can coach at third tier in Australia, based at having played only barely semi-professional here, it's definitely not the best level to coach at. And then we had Dean Effernan come over, didn't we? And I think, did he come over from the Central Coast Mariners? Is that what? Or did he? Had he moved at that point? But we've had Australians.
I didn't mind Dean Effernan as much as a lot of people. I thought he was all right.
No, I want the other one. We had Davidson as well, didn't we? Jason Davidson.
Yeah, I didn't like Jason Davidson because he was a whopper.
But these guys then went back to Australia, Matt.
Aaron Moy, though.
World class. Yeah. They were, but the other guys, when they went back, were still world class. Well, not world class, but they were the best people in the Australian leagues. And they came over here and they just weren't at it. So it's a very different thing. It's very...
Davidson came from Holland, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, I think he's gone to...
But he went back to Australia, didn't he?
But it's just really fitness focused. It's really hot in most places where the cities are. And it makes a massive difference. Everyone's 6'2". I know everyone's tall here, but everyone's 6'2" and really, really fast and can run a long, long way. And that's kind of what the game is. It's a lot different here. It's technically far superior. The facilities there are great, but it just doesn't translate well when the players seem to leave Australia to go to England or a lot go to Europe. But not many make it, which is quite surprising considering how much money is put into it. It's unbelievable. It's exactly what the English league should be when you're looking at junior levels and how they coach it. Like Matt, you saying earlier on that your lads having private academy training. And now that's kind of quite new, I think, to England, because when I left in 2011, no one really kind of did that. Whereas in Australia, as soon as I got there, that was already a thing. Quite a lot of people go, having played semi-pro here, they go over to Australia, play semi-pro again, but a better lifestyle, and then they set up their own academies. I think, I don't know if David Heaney, who played for Town before, did something similar, but people have done it. It's kind of a done thing. I think Schofield's over there. Schofield's is
Schofield's
that's where too. But that's where they go. And it's just players are nowhere near the ability of what you get in the English leagues. I honestly don't think the A League itself would, some of the teams in there wouldn't do very well in Conference North here. I really think it's that much of a drop when it comes to their abilities. So whilst he might look great on paper and what he's achieved, and again, is a Town link there, it's definitely not comparable to the division that we're in. It's just not. It's just a long way off that just yet. That's not to say he couldn't come in. Big Ange at Spurs obviously was Brisbane Raw coach for a few years, and then Melbourne Victory, and won pretty much everything. And he played an amazing style of football. But even before he came to England to get a decent job, he had to go to Japan first, and then to Scotland, and then to England.
Kevin Muscat's in Japan. I think he's gone to Japan, hasn't he? He's got an interesting career path as well, following Ange. Yes, it's definitely a certain one, but I think when you look at Mark Jackson's record at MK Dons, it wasn't particularly sparkling, was it? 6 wins in 25 and not great. But it's nice to hear sort of outside of the box shouts, isn't it? Because that's what we're looking for, isn't it? And that's what we're sort of thinking. We've seen the Pep Linders thing. We've seen him. There was another one I heard mentioned who was in the second tier in Holland. I can't remember his name. But there's a lot there's little names floating around from hearsay here and there, and it's interesting. It's better than going out and getting a bloke up the road, isn't it? It's more interesting. It's more interesting for us, isn't it? And I think we're at that point now where we want something new, something fresh, don't we? Just to come in and sweep us off our feet, don't we? Like David Wagner did all those years ago and took us on a merry ride to the Premier League. That was fun. Let's talk about the transfer window. We'll finish with the window. So Huddersfield Town set out to bring in 6 players. That was the call from Mr. Nagel at the start of the window. I mean, we brought in 4. I'm not sure I count Brodie Spencer really as a player, but Brodie Spencer's coming. He's been, I hate the saying like a new signing, but he has really, because he's come in and he's made a difference. Brodie Spencer came back from Motherwell and he looks a player. It's one of the best probably the best loan I think a Town player's had since Lewis O'Brien went to Bradford. Maybe it seems to have really made him. We brought in Alex Matos. Alex Matos, like I said, was phenomenal against Sheffield Wednesday. Maybe phenomenal might be overdoing it, but it was very good. Bojan Radulovic came in, and I think in Bojan's defence, the Finnish league finished in October, didn't it? So he's probably not going to be match fit at the moment. Radinho Balk is coming from Groningen, and Reece Healy's coming from Watford. So they ended up being one short of the target of 6. But Kevin Nagel did say that they were either really expensive or just not really good enough. So I think the window itself, in terms of incomings, is fine. Is decent. Out goes Romani Edmonds-Green, old Franz Peckenbauer. Josh Osterfield's gone out on loan. Kyle Hudlin's gone out on loan. Loic Aina's gone out on loan. And I think Mustafa Olagunju left on loan right at the depths as well of the transfer window. Brady stuck a tweet out sort of saying rate Town's transfer business out of 10. What would you say, Killer, from that? Because we kind of got mostly what we needed.
Yeah, I think we're better. We're definitely better than we went into January. I think we've improved a lot more than everybody else around us have. Normally, you kind of sit here as a Town fan pretty jealous, don't you? Saying, oh, they've brought in so-and-so and whatnot. Whereas, okay, our guys are pretty unknown, but we needed strikers. They've gone out and got them. We can have our own opinions on whether we think they're good enough, but they've gone out and spent the money and they've got the track record, and on paper they should be. I will give them a pass that Brody Spencer is like a new signing. I know, like, normally when you bring a guy back on loan, it's like a new signing, and we're at first people to be like, yeah, is it? Hell no, it's not. We've had him before, but he has developed a bit similar to when Jack Hunt went out on loan to Chesterfield years and years ago and came back and instantly was a first-team player. I think we look good, but again, the transfer windows just enabled us to change system, and I think that's the biggest thing, because I think that gives us a chance of surviving this year in this division. I can't go 10 out of 10. I'm not going to go up there, but I'd give it a good 8 out of 10 so far. But then I might be sat here in a few weeks cursing it because the tougher games come along and we look totally out of our depth again. We've had quite an easy run of fixtures and we've taken 6 points out of a possible 12, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not the best case scenario either. But I think it's tough to argue that we're not better now than we were going into it. And that I think we spent more than most fans expected. I know we all want them to spend millions, but I don't think realistically we expected to bring in the guys that we have. So it's better than I expected. And I think it gives us a decent chance of being able to play in a way that keeps us in the Championship.
Go on, Johnny.
Yeah, I'd agree with that last point completely. It's definitely better than I expected, and it's definitely more money than I thought we'd spend. I mean, Huddersfield Town can really point to loads of examples of where spending money doesn't necessarily mean quality or success, but equally it is something that you do want the football club to do. I think it's been a while since we've kind of spent real money on more than one player, certainly in a window, looking at Wiles and Hellick previously. And I think it's in a position that we need to target, like you just said there. It allows us to change. It allows us to actually have strikers. We're going to say fit strikers because are they fit now? I don't know, but we did have fit strikers for a couple of weeks. I think the other thing I would add to that is that it's been said so many times, but January is hard to deal with, hard to deal in rather. You've got players you're probably paying a tax on because people don't want to let players go. We've been a little bit smart with that from the leagues that we've got them from. Obviously, leagues that have finished as well won't necessarily feel that, but it is harder to operate in. We went through a complete summer struggling to sign a player. Really, the fact we managed to kind of do so much business in January in key areas is good. So I kind of probably rate it a little bit higher for that reason. But yeah, positive. Been interesting to get that extra body in to see where they were looking position-wise, just out of interest. No one was really linked that I'd heard too much, or nothing said about where it would have been position-wise. But I don't think we can be too upset, really. And I think probably most Town fans, we didn't see what the poll said, but most Town fans are probably happier or kind of got more than they probably expected in numbers and in value as well.
Go on, Phil.
No, I think it's been good. Yeah, I think it's been good. I think I'd like to see a little bit more of these two strikers. Obviously, they look like the short of match practice. Big lad looks like he holds it up well. Tries linking up play. I thought it was going to be a little bit faster. It looks quite faster. Yeah, it looks quite slow. So that's a slight concern. But you know, he looks like he might be able to chip in with a few goals. He looks like a natural finisher. So a couple of good signings there. Matos, like him, legs. You know, it works hard. So something that we needed up and down the pitch. And the centre half seems a good player as well. So it'd been nice to have had a winger. I think just someone a little bit more exciting, can get to the byline, cross the ball in, especially having two strikers. So it'd be interesting to see how these strikers are utilised. So, but I think it's more so who we're getting back in, so we can cover a lot of positions now, which we really couldn't say that before. So. Yeah, I think it's been a good window. Like Johnny said there, I was shocked we'd spent the money that we'd spent, to be honest. And going back to it, I just thought we haven't rushed into signing players just because the pressure from the fan base, etc., feels like they needed to. So fingers crossed these two strikers come off. We'd really like to have a couple of strikers up front that we can rely on. But no, good, really good.
Yeah, my little boy Charlie had a doctor's appointment just before the game. Wait times much better than the NHS, and he managed to see Dr. Bergzorg within a couple of minutes queuing, and he tells us he'll be back very, very soon. So that's something to look forward to, because I think we've missed Delano Bergzorg. Something great. He's a player I like a lot. He's Bergzorg. Even when he's not playing well, I like him because he just does something different, and he just. It gets you out of your seat. You love those players that just get you out of your seat, even if it's for the wrong reasons. Sometimes he's just fun. It makes watching football fun, does Bergzorg, and that's what I really like about him. And I like his personality as well. He seems to really like it here, and I think it's the first time really anyone's given him the platform to properly show what he can do, and I think he seems to be enjoying it, which is good. And hopefully he'll be back soon to add to the front line. I'll read some of the comments out we got on Twitter. Hopefully I'm not stealing Brady's thunder. If I am Brady, I do apologise, but maybe not. Yeah, fuck you, Brady. So we'll move on.
Do it.
Gary Crossland says, absolutely no idea. Hoping I've not seen the best of them yet. Same with Ben Wiles. I think I have with Edwards. Yeah, Ben Wiles made 4 key passes, Killer, on Saturday. I think that's a feather in his cap for the performance. Jonathan Ford, we met Jonathan Ford all the way from America. Yeah, he came over to see a couple of Town games last season, pretty much by himself. That's some solid commitment from Mr. Ford. He gives it a 7.9 out of 10. He says a creative midfielder would have been ideal and a winger. 7.9 is close to a B. Lee Morris says 10 out of 10, best window ever. I think he's been sarcastic, unless it's because we got rid of Kyle Hudlin, then he probably means it. Neil Wayne said we'd get 6, we got 4. 5 is a stretch with Spencer. As many have said, our lack of creativity in midfield is huge. Never replace Moy. Stephen, I thought that's a shagger, but it's a shogger. Stephen says, not forgetting Spencer's return too. It's a 6 to 7 for me, says Miles Dixon. Creative midfielder was a big need we haven't addressed. Balka and Radulovic are total unknown quantities at this level. Marco 2807 says, I think a creative midfielder would have been a preference over another defender, but happy with the lads we brought in. So let's get them. Let's back them and see where we go. I'd score it as 6 to 7. Johnny Foster's given it a 7. Slide away 17. Matt says giving it a 5. Again, the sort of theme really is those who aren't giving it a 7 or 8 seems to be we need a creative central midfield, and we do really, unless Jonathan Hogg's going to hit those diagonals like he did for Sorba Thomas more frequently. But yeah, so 4 in, 4 out. It says 5 out of 10 by local hero Peter, who is very much a European EU rejoiner all over. He's got flags all over his thing. He's giving it 7 out of 10. Adam McDonald says 8 out of 10. The Duke says a strong 7, as it was much better than he was expecting. So yeah, 6 7s. Colorado Terriers, another. We've got quite a few American Town fans these days. He says 6. So again, creative midfielder, and again, creative midfielder, or it's a 7 or 8. So it's good. Polish Hippie gave it 4 out of 10. What's going on, Stan? It's not that bad. So unless he means 4 players when we should have got 10, who knows? Yeah, Will on YouTube says when you look at it like that, squad depth is still the same. I'm not sure about that. I think squad depth's a little bit better, especially in your wide areas now as well, in fullback and in defence. And midfield actually looks quite padded out now, Killer, with Kasumu. When Kasumu's back, you got Kasumu, Radoni, Hogg, Matos, and Hogg. Sorry if I said the name twice there. Wiles, yeah. So yeah, it's looking rather good. So yeah, for me, the window, it's been and gone. So we've got this now. Question is, do we stay up? And that's what we're looking for. Phil, do Huddersfield Town stay in this league? It's all on the manager, really, isn't it?
Oh, ask that question. I thought Birmingham were going to be at playoffs, didn't I? They're asking me. I don't know. We just got to pick. We've just got to start picking wins, can't we? Turning those draws into wins. Simple as that. So, and obviously looking at the teams below us, it's close, so isn't it? You know, one more win and we go up to what? If anybody above us doesn't win, one more win takes us to what? Is it 15th or something?
We should have beaten Blackburn and QPR, really. Those points would have put 16th in 16th place, and that's frustrating, really, because if we'd have been 16th with this run of games coming up, you'd have been not quite feet up, cigars out, but you'd have been really happy, wouldn't you, with where we were? And obviously Darren Moore would still be in charge, which is a completely different scenario.
Can you imagine having a season where we get to this point of the year and we know we're going to be all right? That'd be class.
Yeah, nothing to play for. Nothing to play for. Yeah, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. We could do all sorts of stuff on the podcast. Wouldn't be as miserable half the time. Wouldn't be as up and down. Yeah. What do you reckon then, Killer? Good chance.
It depends. If everyone's fit, I think we're okay. But I think we're really reliant on Karoma and Sorba Thomas to create. And I think if you lose one of them, we're in trouble. And unfortunately, with our track record with injuries this season, I don't know why all the strikers are injured and all the keepers. Phil can't be far off getting called up again for a spot. He really can't be, because I don't know why they're all injured, but I don't understand why they're out. Well, my theory on it, I guess, is that when you play with a back five, you really every tackle counts. Oh man, but I'll go back to it because I think it's important here. But every tackle you've got to block, you've got to throw yourself in at everything, and you're forever stretching. And it's really, really hard work. And that's why I thought we suffered so many injuries at the beginning. Now it doesn't seem as bad because we're playing a different kind of way. And hopefully that'll help us going forward. But 2 strikers injured yesterday, like we said. And I think injuries will dictate how this season goes for us from now on. Because whilst we have the quality with the starting 11, we're still light when it comes to goal scorers and people that can create goal scoring chances. Ben Wiles might be the answer of the creative midfielder. And none of us expected it. But maybe he's that guy. I'm not entirely sure, but what I am sure of is if Karoma or Sorba Thomas goes down, I don't understand where we'd get those goals and that just the pressure release from, because Delano's good, Bergdog, but only when he's got one of them there with him, I think. On his own, he's a danger. Yes, he is. But when he's got 2 of the fast guys with him, it creates a nightmare situation for defenders. And if we can have all them 3 back fit, I think we'll stay up no problem whatsoever. But it's if they stay fit. So as the squad is today, yeah, I think we'll be okay. But if Hellick's out for an extended period of time, Pearson's not the most resilient. I don't know. I think it's really going to come down to the guy that comes in, of course, and how we play, but the injuries that we've faced so far.
I think the good thing, Johnny, is that, well, it wasn't good that QPR won, but the yesterday, I've kind of dragged that pack in. You know, it looks like Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham are struggling now up against it. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday fans have written it off. I wouldn't write them off personally. Rotherham are probably more of a struggle. They seem to really struggle getting going this year. But us and QPR winning have drawn. I think you look up to 16th now, and you look at Blackburn and their slide as well. And Blackburn's one I name checked a couple of weeks ago. It's not. I don't think it's just this 4. I honestly think that Plymouth are up in sort of 15th. I think from them down, it's us and QPR could potentially get out of this, and it could be someone. You always see that one shock factor, don't you? There's always FFP usually screws someone with 10 points, don't they? And that usually helps us out.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think it might have passed that now, but it could be something like someone whose owners just fall out with the club and just pack up and go, like Blackburn seem to have done, or somewhat like Millwall. There's a change of managers, a new manager trying to implement a passing style there, which isn't quite going to plan. I think there's more in this, mate, than what people are sort of saying at the minute.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at that QPR Blackburn result when Blackburn pulled a goal back. I was kind of thinking, do I want them to score another one? Do I not? I don't like Blackburn for multiple reasons, anyway. But no, I was almost quite happy the way it stayed. It is very, very tight. Do I think we'll stay up? I'm normally quite pessimistic, just to kind of give it a bit of a sense check. But I do think we will. I think it's absolutely critical what you just said there about injuries, because for some reason a player gets a run in this team and they're out for like 4, 5, 6 weeks, and it just seems to be a pattern that is really kind of like needs to be sorted out. Whether it's just like I say, whether it's the back five, whether it's just coincidence, whether it's something else going on, who knows? But it seems to be too much of a coincidence. I think you're absolutely right. That'll make or break it. This team, you never got every player fit to pick from. No clubs in that situation. But if we could get 3 or 4, if we could pick 3 or 4 back to kind of come back in, it would make a massive difference. I do think there is a quality in the team to certainly catch some of those teams. I do think we do play a lot of them as well. Looking at them now, we do play a lot of them. So there are a few kind of like head-to-heads where we can start to kind of chip away. It doesn't rest on the next kind of like four games, but if we can try and maybe do something crazy and get a point somewhere, do you know what I mean? Or maybe nick a 3 points. Sunderland might be one, to kind of pick out. That'll make a big difference. So, I mean, 4 or 5 games, what it looks like then will be interesting. But teams are struggling. We've not been on a great run. I know we have been picking up points, which is good. We've not been in a great run. In fact, I've managed to close gaps on teams above us. It shows that they're obviously not in great form either. So there are a few sinking ships there. I think we've just got to try and get a point out one of these tough games, and then look to kind of target Sunderland as a game to beat. And then we go into a run where we do kind of hit some of these teams around us, and hopefully we can try and do it. I do think Sheffield Wednesday, I know they had a bit of resurgence, but recently they've not been great, and they've started to lose games as well. I think one of them are obviously gone. So I think really it is now that one spot, and we've still got 3-point gaps. I do think we will do it, but even saying that makes me a bit stressed. Saying it out loud.
There we go. Committed too much there, Johnny, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's all we've got time for this week. It's been great to have you back on, Phil. Yeah, Johnny, killer as always. Fantastic. And we'll be back next week, hopefully, with Town still with a head above water.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So Town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So Town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.